Welcome everybody, this is How to English with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and source materials will be referenced where possible. Woohoo!
Hey!
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, go.
Okay, episode 31. Do you know what the topic is, Em?
Yes, it is. Drum roll.
Drum roll. It is conflict. Clearly, people are listening to this episode because they want to know or have experience of and would like some suggestions about how to deal with conflict.
Okay, but I mean, what is conflict?
Before we start,
what? How does it connect to teaching? Where are we? What? I don't understand. Conflict.
Oh, we'll come back to that in a second.
Oh.
Like that's the lead-in bit. Yeah, that's the lead-in bit. That's the bit where you introduce the topic and people think, right, am I going to switch off now or shall I carry on listening? Right, so we're coming back to that in a second. But do you remember quite a long time ago we had a little competition going on between nations?
You had a competition going on, I think.
In my mind.
It wasn't an official one, was it?
No, but there is a competition, and I have to tell you...
Sorry, there's not a competition. It's not like... No.
Oh, okay.
All right, go on.
Well, I just wanted to tell you, the listeners, tell you who is listening to us.
Tell the listeners, tell everyone.
I'm going to tell it... I'm going to tell everybody. Right, so I haven't planned this very well, have I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got a top 10.
Top 10.
Can you believe the 10th most popular country?
Do you want to rephrase
listening?
that?
It's not right, is it? Come on, give me some rope here.
The country with the most listeners
to our podcast is at 10. Iraq.
Wow. Okay.
At 9, Japan.
Japan? What do you mean, Japan?
I said
Japan. Okay.
At 7.
8. No, 8. Yes, sorry. Hang on. You said 10, then 9, then it's 8. You can't skip 7.
Goodness. At 8 is Poland.
Okay. Now it's 7.
At 7 is Iran.
Uh-huh.
At 6 is Brazil.
Wow.
At 5 is Spain. I've done it wrong.
4. Oh, you're terrible at this.
Can I do it again?
What, from the beginning?
Yeah.
No.
I'll cut that bit out. Okay, let's do it again.
Just do it, but quickly.
Okay. Em, you remember that we're having a competition.
Not starting again from the beginning. Just start, completely wrong? 10, 9, 8?
Can we do it again?
All of it.
Can we do it again? So, Em, do you remember we're having a competition of the most listeners to our podcast?
I'm going to say it again with as much energy. Yes, I do remember.
At 10 is Russia. At 9 is Iraq. At
8
is Japan. At
7
is Poland. At
6
is Iran. At
5
is France. At
4
is Brazil. At
3
is... I've done it wrong again. I'm going to just cut this whole thing out now.
Okay.
Can I do it again from the top?
No.
Oh, go on, please let me.
I think we should just keep it all in. I think people are loving this.
They're not. It's absolutely
it's hilarious.
Horrendous. It's horrendous.
Is it the problem that I'm saying? The numbers? Is it backwards? What is it that you can't do, Gav?
I think, well, the problem is that one of the countries is there twice, so I think it's gone wrong.
All right. Okay.
I'm definitely cutting all of this out.
You're not. I think we should definitely keep this. This is quality
1, 2,
entertainment.
3, 4, 5. Top 5.
Go on.
Brazil is 5. Spain is 4. UK is 3. USA is 2. And number 1 is the Czech Republic.
Okay, well done, the Czech Republic.
Thank you very, very much.
That's amazing. Okay.
Absolutely brilliant. I felt there was a bit of conflict between us then.
I just thought that as well. And I mean, conflict in so many ways.
Yes.
conflict between your teeth in your brain and your tongue and your, I don't know.
Ability to count.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
never going to do that again. That
Great
was
intro.
Awful.
Brilliant.
Awful.
Brilliant.
Good. So there could be a conflict of interest.
With or between.
Between the student and the teacher. Between the topic and the learning sphere.
Between the students themselves.
Yes.
I think I remember, Gav, you once told me an anecdote that you were teaching in a summer school. Actual physical conflict, wasn't there, with one of your groups?
Yes. Was there? I think it was your group.
I thought it was your group.
How do you know?
I remember you told me that you were teaching a big group of Russian teenagers and one of them criticised the other one's mother.
Yes. And there was an argument between the two. And one of the young gentlemen got up and punched the other one in the face, and there were lots of gasps. And then the young man that got punched in the face said, "That's okay, I had it coming to me."
I deserved it.
I deserved it, and that was it. And then they carried on.
Let the students resolve the conflict.
I'm not sure. If I had seen that coming, I would have prevented it. I don't think physical fighting it should be allowed in any situation.
How would you have prevented it?
I would have shouted at them, "Oi, stop it."
All right. But would you actually, I mean, it's not likely, but would you get in between?
I would, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would take the punches. I would be the punching bag.
Would you?
Yeah.
I hope that it never happens. And I hope that it's not very common that there is actual physical conflict in the classroom. It's never happened to me.
Yes.
So I think really today we're going to focus more on mental conflict, internal conflict, language conflict.
Oh, yeah.
What were you saying?
Maybe your point of view is different from your students. Maybe you're trying to teach, for example, we had the topic of politically correct language, and maybe your student just stops you in the middle of the lesson and says, "This is not interesting, this is not important, I don't care about these words and these people." What do you do, Em?
Well, actually today, I think we've mentioned a few episodes back about ableist language, and I just thought I would mention it to my student and say, just for your knowledge and just to make you aware that this is actually something that's quite a hot topic at the moment and that people are discussing it. And he kind of just laughed it off and said, "Oh, that's ridiculous."
He, the student?
Yeah. And, well, it was kind of interesting because we had an actual conversation about it. And I said, "Why do you think it's ridiculous?" And he said, "Well, I don't think that anyone with a disability would be offended by that."
Oh.
And I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case."
I'm not sure he's spoken to all of them.
Well, that's what I said. I said, how can you be sure? And even if it's only a small percentage of people that are offended, surely that's important.
Yeah.
Those people are offended. And he kind of saw my side, but I still think he was very much dismissive of it. But that's up to him. I mean, that's what he thinks. And I think it's just our jobs as teachers just to talk about what people are talking about and make students aware. And I told him because he deals with a lot of American colleagues and people from other countries. So just because it's not relevant to him in his country or that people aren't talking about it doesn't mean it's not talked about by other people in other countries or, you know, even maybe people he doesn't talk to in his own country. Yep. But yeah, I didn't focus on it too much. So I think if you do get that pushback, you need to explain clearly what it is you're saying. Don't just back off and say, "Oh, yeah, okay, you're right." You know, let's not talk about it. I think you've just got to try and give your opinion without sounding like you're dictating or persuading someone or trying to change their mind.
But it's hard if they think that this is your opinion. And I think you want to show them that this is not just coming from you. As you say, you're not making all the rules with language. You're not saying what's okay and what's not okay. Yeah. But they will face this pushback or this disagreement from somebody.
That's a good
point.
So
to be aware of it.
And often when these things are in the mainstream, like on news, and if it is a topic that's being discussed, like racism or something very important, it is in the news. And then I start noticing a lot more. So then I might start sending articles or in a lesson talk about, oh, well, there was this news story related to that topic. And it's not like I'm pushing it, my opinion, but it's like backing up what I've said, that this isn't just me, like you said, you know, this is other people saying it too. And it's in the international news, and it's not that ridiculous if all these people are talking about it as well.
And you get that story from a major news company.
Reliable source.
Okay, that's it. Maybe not just backing up what you're teaching, but you're saying this is in the mainstream, this is what people are talking about. And again, it's not me pushing an agenda on you, but this is giving you an overview of the language that you're facing.
And sometimes I can be a bit neutral as well in the lesson. Say, well, I don't actually know what I think. I haven't made my mind up yet. Really kind of naive way, just to say this is a completely clean topic that we haven't got to specifically say. It's a safe space. I'm not judging you.
Yeah, I've had opinions and I've absolutely disagreed with them.
What do you mean you've had opinions and you've disagreed with
opinions
them?
From students, which I've disagreed with. Should we give actual examples?
Well, I have.
Because somebody expressed an opinion I disagreed with, and I said, can you explain why you think that? And then we discussed it. I didn't take the higher ground or, try to belittle or say, oh, that's a stupid argument or whatever. Whatever personal feelings I had, I tried to be as professional as possible. And then at the end I said, well, I disagree with you. I accept this is your opinion and you're entitled to your opinion. And it was good that we were able to have this open conversation.
And it didn't affect you in the future after that?
No, I just, you kind of accept that people are different. They've got different opinions. You hope that they might over time change their opinions on certain topics.
Yeah. But, there are these taboo issues, aren't there? There is even a book called Taboo Topic. What is it? Taboo? What's the book?
Taboo and You?
No, it's like, I can't remember.
You've talked about it before.
Yeah, we have. It's a
really old book.
It'll be in the notes.
Do people still use that book?
Well, I don't know, actually. Taboos and issues. That's it. Taboos and But I often just thought, well, that's kind of provocative.
How often do you use that book?
I've never even used it. What I was going to say is there are these taboo issues that we as teachers are kind of maybe told not to talk about, like politics, religion, all that stuff.
Who tells you not to use those topics?
I don't know. It's in training sessions. They
Really?
say don't say things. Don't open up that line of discussion.
I think there are particular countries where you're not supposed to talk about specific topics.
Yeah.
Yes, I've encountered that.
It's important to be mindful of that. You don't want to lose your job over it.
Do you think it's just easier for foreign teachers to say, this is what we talk about in Britain or this is what we're talking about in America? Do you think it's different
No, not we. I wouldn't say we. This is what we and not you talk about. I would just say this is talked about passively, or this is what American people are discussing, or it's in the American news at the moment.
I think that could be. Could that be a more difficult topic to approach if you're a teacher from that country? The students might think, oh, my teacher has an agenda because this isn't a topic we talk about. This is a foreign thing.
I don't know. I think sometimes it gives you more freedom if you're not from that country, because you can be a bit more like, oh, I don't know what this is about. And
what do you mean it gives you more freedom?
As in, you don't know the culture, you don't know the opinions of maybe the political parties or the people in the country.
Okay.
So from an outside point of view, it might be a bit safer in a way to start talking about more general topics that you can say, well, I don't know anything about that here. What's happening here?
Okay.
What do people think here?
Okay. But you still might need to know some things, because if you brought up a very sensitive topic...
Yeah, well, of course. There was the famous case of the teacher in, I can't remember which country, but she called the teddy bear Muhammad, and it was all very controversial. Yeah, of course, know the local culture and what you should and shouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
Definitely. Gav, would you like a tea?
I only drink coffee.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that could be arranged.
Oh?
Followers, if you enjoy listening, watching or reading Gav and Em's How to English Pod, visit ko-fi.com/How to English Pod.
That's coffee, ko-fi.com/How to English Pod. And it would be lovely if you bought us a tea or a coffee to show us support. You could even get a mention on our show if you'd like.
Can you hear the storm?
Is there a storm going on in the background?
There is a storm in the background. I think it's quite appropriate.
It is. So that was conflict, and you might have a topic where you've got pushback, you've got resistance, you've got the student looking at you thinking, okay, maybe I disagree with this, or maybe the teacher has got an agenda. I mean, just keeping it kind of neutral if you can. And then if the student really doesn't enjoy it, this is the same as any topic, just drop it. And just say, okay, well, this is something you're not interested in, then let's talk about something else.
If it's obvious from the student, I mean, sometimes as well, you can be in a place or, not even a particular country, but it's just that thing that the students have this level of respect for the teacher, in which case they will just let the teacher talk about whatever they want. And that is difficult because as a teacher, you don't know if you're crossing a line or if you're actually offending someone and they're just sitting politely nodding, and in fact you've really said something bad, and then after the lesson you might find out, or you might not find out at all, and then you just don't have that student ever again.
Or you might get fired.
So I think just be careful, but not so careful that you're not talking about things.
I would definitely say it's worth learning about it first, about the culture and the customs, and then that will help you plan more carefully. What about from the student's point of view? Should the student say, teacher, we don't want to talk about this topic. This is a taboo in our country.
As a student, think about your language, direct. We don't like this topic. Yeah. That hurts as a teacher. That is really, really hard. Hopefully it doesn't happen often, but there's times when students say, this is boring, or I don't like this topic. Oh, it just cuts like a knife, You've spent all that time planning it. Definitely students, say if you're not enjoying it, but just diplomatically, I would just say politely, well, maybe we could discuss something else instead. What would you think?
Yeah, it would be nice to think the students can be open with us and be honest and say, oh, I don't really want to talk about this, or it'd be nice if they could disagree with us and have a nice discussion, but conflict is a really difficult thing to deal with.
Yes, it is, definitely.
What about conflict more from... I was thinking like when students might be tired.
Can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
And this was a conflict of me and my plan conflicting with students' mood. Oh. So let's just call my students M and J.
M?
No, mine. M for like the letter M.
Oh.
And J for the letter J.
Does that stand for their actual names?
Might do. So there were two students online and me. Okay. So I joined and everything, worked. Technology was good. I was like, happy. Got my lesson plan ready. And M launched. I said, hi, M, how are you? This is really confusing.
It is confusing because you're M.
Oh, sorry, I didn't think about it. But anyway, I said, how are you? And he just said, terrible. I've got all these problems with work. And then he launched into this long kind of monologue of how awful his job was and that he wasn't happy with it and that his boss was asking him to do lots of stuff and he was really stressed. And then he Googled, I'm in a bad mood. Right, okay.
Good expression.
Yeah, it was good English, but I was like, right, okay. And then the second student joined. Jay joined. I said, hi, Jay, how are you? And it was like he'd just woken up.
Oh, no.
He was really tired, practically like asleep. And I just thought, not sure dependent prepositions are going to work today. So there was my conflict. And my question to you, Gav, is, okay, what do you do? Do you indulge M and talk about his job and talk about all the problems with his boss and like therapy? Do you allow Jay to just sort of sleep? Or do you try and energize them both, change the topic, get something really interesting happening, abandon the plan? What do you do?
That's a tricky one.
What do you do?
It depends how well you know the students, if you know what's going to work.
But you don't always, even when you know them. They're having a bad day.
I might ask Jay to ask M questions.
About the job? About the boss?
Yeah.
Ooh.
No?
I don't know. Well, this is my question. Is that okay?
Well, you need to find out if...
Different department?
If M wants to talk about M's problems, and then Jay will kind of take part in that. I don't know, it could be quite...
Tired Jay will take part in that. Okay. But then do you teach extra language and make it a lesson?
I don't think they're going to be very receptive, to be honest. So I think the lesson plan might have to go on hold until next time.
Which is not what I did.
Okay.
I ploughed through with the
And how did that work
plan.
out for you?
Yeah, it was all right. I think actually Em was quite grateful to have something else to think about.
Okay.
And Well, Jay
fell asleep.
Jay wasn't exactly alert, but I think it wouldn't have mattered what we were doing. I think he would have been in the same state. So I took a kind of risk and said, okay, well, we did talk for about 10 minutes. And then I said, right, okay, I'm going to change the subject. And I hope by the end of the lesson you feel a bit better. I'm not sure if they did. But
I think that you have to make that decision. And I think another episode we'll have to talk about the other role that teachers often take, which is listening.
Therapist, yeah. It's just so hard, isn't it? Like, you've got to be a lot of things. And, even that one example I gave you, I had literally a couple of seconds, I would say. I could have spent longer, but I just had a very short amount of time to decide, what am I going to do here? Like, what is this going to be, this lesson? So seemed like a very important decision to make at the time.
Yeah, it sounds like you made the right decision and it worked.
I think so.
Dependent prepositions.
I'll have to tell you next week when I revise it and I find that they haven't remembered a single thing. But yeah,
that'll be the indication.
Yeah,
or
maybe not.
If you're lucky, they'll be in a really good mood and full of energy and say, "Oh, remember that lesson last week? Well, let's do it again because it was so much fun."
Yeah, and often they come and they're in totally different moods. Like, one can be in a totally upbeat and fun mood, and the other person is like really low energy. Oh. That's really hard. That's a conflict, isn't it? Like, which one do you follow? Which mood do you follow?
Yes.
And you don't want to sort of isolate people and make them feel like they're not allowed to feel tired or angry or whatever,
Yeah. So should students attend if they're tired, if they're grumpy, if they're distracted?
I don't know. I think as a student, you've got some responsibility to be present at least. And I don't mean just physically. Like, you've got to be tuned in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is quite unfair on the teacher, I think, to have to deal with that. And even like if the students text in or send in a message or something, I think as a teacher, I just say, are you going to be doing that for a little while? Like, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Texting
someone, or
emailing
or something
during the lesson.
Or they're just distracted. I think there's nothing wrong with just.
How do you feel about students pulling their phones out?
I think my students, I can only talk for my own students, they only do it if they really need to.
Okay.
So especially online nowadays, a lot of mine are actually at work. So they're in the middle of their lesson and then they'll suddenly be typing something. And maybe it's my fault. I need to teach them the language of, sorry, excuse me, I just need to do this and then I'll be back, which a lot of them do. But I think as long as, you know them and you understand they're not being rude or whatever. But even if they are just being rude, just sitting there on their phones, I don't think there's a problem with saying, are you going to be doing that for the next 10 minutes? Because that's fine, but I'm going to do this activity and I just won't include you.
Okay,
That's sort of how I deal with it.
That's nice, but that's from a professional point of view. That's how you should behave.
Yeah, just from a person, a human point of view. Like, just
courteous.
Tell me, if you're not here, fine. If you want to be in the room sitting in the seat, fine. But I'm not going to talk to you if you're not looking at me and if you're not paying attention.
Okay.
You can just do it over there or whatever. And then when you're ready to come back and participate, that's fine.
What about dominant students?
In what way?
They're dominant.
What do you mean? Like, conflict?
They're dominating the lesson. Well, that is conflict because then you have to deal with them. I just basically jump on them and say, oi.
Wrestle them to the ground.
Oi, pack it in, you.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Because I think dominant people respond well to other dominant people. So
do you?
I just like kind of take them on and say, okay, you've had your minute, shut up. Now let all of these other people talk. Yeah,
so you take them down a peg.
Yeah, just
you
be straight with
them. You embarrass them. You humiliate them.
Well, I don't humiliate them, but I'm very straight. I'm very direct with them because I think often that's how they like it.
Straight and direct. I don't know. I think that dominant people are quite sensitive to that in a way.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, they want to be dominant. So if you try and tackle that,
there can only be one dominant person in the classroom.
All right, so you're fighting to be
That's
alpha.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I would either ignore them or I would look at them and say, all right, that's enough, thanks very much. Just be quite obvious about it, really.
I don't know. I haven't got that sort of confidence, so I would probably appeal to their kinder nature in
Could you
kind
please
of
stop talking?
desperation. So please just
I don't, but there's
let
something...
other people speak.
It's what you have to do, though, as a teacher. You have to dictate who is, controlling the lesson, who is talking next, whose turn it is. If you've got two students, they should both speak as much as each other, in my opinion.
I totally agree with that. And we are in a position of power in that way to delegate and to allocate time. But maybe in some situations like that, when somebody is being quite difficult, I probably would just say after the lesson, can I just talk to you for a sec?
Wow, that doesn't sound like... I thought you said you would not...
No, not in front of other people. I just would be quite worried that they would really hate me for that.
Okay.
So I might just... But then, they might hate me for the other.
Would you have the confidence to say, can I just ask you to stay back, and then you would explain to them?
I think if you come from a kind of, this is my job and this is what I need to do in the class, and, I need to be able to let everyone speak in a way that allows the language to be practiced. And
that's good. I like that.
Just say it from that kind of view. Like, it's nothing personal. It's not my opinion. It's just literally it's statistically proven as research that everyone has to have a try and explain it in English. And if you're talking all the time, then not everybody can practice, so they're not going to progress. And do you really want that?
I like it.
Maybe it's not something I've thought through too much.
One thing I wanted to mention is something that could lead to conflict is making jokes in the classroom, because jokes are very subtle. They're quite nuanced sometimes, and if you have some cheap, flippant remark that you make to the student, like, yeah, of course, it's because you're an idiot, and you could do that to a friend and they would probably laugh, but when students hear something like that, they really wouldn't get the jokey part that you're trying to make on it. So really avoiding jokes. I can't think of an example where I've had to deal with that.
Or if you're telling a joke, just announce, and now I'm going to tell you a joke.
Yeah. Somebody might get the wrong end of the stick and suddenly think that you're criticising them, and stereotyping, making jokes about nationalities, all of these things that I just leave outside the classroom. Right. So irony doesn't often work. Sarcasm, you have to, as you said, make it really clear that you're maybe talking about something specific. Yeah. But I tend to avoid this sort of jokey behaviour. Yes. There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh, there's some good resources, I think, from Market Leader. They've got a whole section on conflict. And I think it might be from the HR point of view.
Yes, I think I remember that.
That's really, really good. They've got some good stuff, so we'll put that in the show notes. And also, I think there's some resources for negotiations. It's about conflict as well, how to deal with that, how to calm the other person down and stuff like that. So that's really good.
Yeah, which is really important as well as an actual lesson to teach this language of polite disagreement.
Yeah.
Because that in real life as well, it can be very difficult for students to understand that it might not be so direct, maybe in English, or you can't just say, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, you don't say no. You avoid it. You
very
say...
indirect, isn't it? Yeah. So that is an important lesson as well to actually teach.
Yeah, definitely. Language students. Of negotiation and avoiding conflict, and that storm is really coming, isn't it?
It's here.
I can hear it.
I know. It's very dramatic. I'm just going to say one more thing, which is internal conflict, my own conflict.
Oh, right.
Which I've touched on, I think, before, this imposter syndrome thing.
Oh, yeah. What is that again?
Where you just don't feel like you're doing your job very well and that you're not sure. And this happens, I think, if a student challenges you, especially do you know the meaning of this word, or are you sure you know the meaning of this word? And it must happen to everybody, every teacher, where you think, I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe I need to check that. I have that all the time, that kind of doubt.
Still, after all these years?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay.
Because often, if a student is telling me something, I just think that they're right. Like, they've seen it somewhere, they've heard it somewhere, and I may not be aware of that use of that word. So I've learnt so much from my students just telling me, I think it does mean that, or
really?
I've heard this. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a bad teacher, but today, what was the word I learnt? Bisnode? Oh, I don't remember, but it was an outside pool.
An outside?
Pool. Swimming pool.
Oh.
That's natural water that's filtered by the natural
enzymes.
Yeah, like plants and stuff.
That is fascinating. You're often going to come across new words. I thought you meant like grammar or
Yeah,
something.
but I mean, she was telling me it's this, and I said, I don't think so, because I've never heard that word.
Okay.
I said, oh, you went swimming, and she said, yes, I went to the, whatever the word is.
Okay.
And I said, really? Are you talking about a swimming pool? And she said, no, it's a, and I said, I don't think it is.
Oh.
And then I realised she's right.
Okay, well that's wonderful. So you can still learn after all this time.
Yeah.
But you should be confident in your teaching.
Well, I am, but I'm just still a little bit conflicted sometimes.
Well, I'm now wondering if our listeners are also thinking about conflict that they've experienced. So whether they're teachers or students, maybe they've had to deal with conflict as well. So it'd be interesting to get some feedback from people at the usual places. And don't forget, everybody, to recommend us to other teachers and students. Thanks for that. And you've been listening to How to English Teach and Learn with Gav and Em. Em, that's it.
Okay, Gav. Have a nice day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.